Hello and welcome one and all. It is I, Lily, bringing to you what is essentially part 2 of my groovy discussion video. I figured a tier list would be a more fun way to go through the rest of the groovies in the game while also saying my takes on them. But before we get into that though, a few warnings. This is a highly subjective list, as all tier lists are. If your opinion on the groovies differ from mine, that's completely fine. Great even. I'd be happy to know how you have different takes, so feel free to leave a comment if you wanna. Just, be nice and respectful and all that. This tier list is just meant as a fun time, and I'll be mostly judging the art and the composition of the groovy visual, so this is not an attack on any of the characters of the game or the real-life artists. I figured that's obvious, but an extra warning never hurt anybody. Some of my opinions were already stated in my previous video on this topic, but I'll rehash them here so you don't need to watch both to understand. But if you wanna watch both and then give me a boost in the algorithm by liking them, that would be lovely. You can also hit subscribe if you don't want to miss more videos about Twist that I might make in the future. Lastly, I'll only be discussing the groovies released until the end of July 2023. So if you're watching this at a later date and somehow a beachwear card that was released in December or a pajama party card isn't featured, that's why I recorded this before. Now, with everyone properly warned, let me explain my tiers real quick so we can get into this. Our first tier is the
talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique
tier. This is an equivalent to an S tier. It's where all the amazing groovies go to thrive and slay and serve together. These groovies are fun and dynamic and greatly improve the original card visual while highlighting fun aspects of the character. Our next tier is the
Yes, Queen! Slay! Slay! Slay your enemies! Ruler of one of the realms of men!
tier, aka the A tier. This is also where the top tier groovies go, since they're fun and expressive and overall just a delight to see the character in that scenario. This tier is for the cards that are pretty on par with the original visual. I enjoy them both a great amount and would happily stare at them all day. The B tier is the
But this does put a smile on my face
tier. These cards aren't as good as the original visual, but they're still really good. Their only flaw is that they can be a little forgettable after a while, but once you see them again, man, does that make your day a little better. This next one is the
Oh, she passed away? Oh. Alright.
tier, aka the C tier. This is just the meh tier. These aren't bad cards per se, I'm just indifferent to them. They're nothing new, a little on the generic side, There isn't anything exactly wrong with these cards, but if they were removed from the game, I wouldn't grieve them for long. Our D tier is the
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
These are some cards where I can physically feel their potential, it is there, waiting to be unleashed. But they're stuck in a flesh prison of our own making, forever doomed to their gruesome fate. Yeah, I don't like these cards, but more in the sense where I wish they were better, I had hopes for them, I had a vision, and these cards fumbled so hard in the delivery it left me heartbroken. I know these cards can be better, and I hope someday they get the support they deserve. The second to last one is the
Girlfriend, stop! Get back in the car!
tier. This is the tier for cards that should be, honestly, eradicated. I don't even know how to describe how I feel about these cards, because they feel like a crime, to me personally.
I was rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you!
And finally, our last tier. This tier is exclusively for 2 cards, and we might as well just put them there. Behold, tier F for FFFF, aka white, for these white men.
I hate to say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street, I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this man.
I don't know these men. I simply do not perceive them. They don't even go here. Go away. Goodbye. And there we have it. The tier list explained. You are no longer allowed to question my classification beyond this point. Now we can get to the fun stuff. The way I'll do this is by separating the cards in their clothing sets and by chronological order of release. Though I will be grouping the events that are parts 1 and 2 of one another or remixes of the same theme, like Camp Vargas and the Fairy Galas. But before that, I need to get 2 sets out of the way first, starting with the birthday groovies. They're amazing, like all 3 years so far. I love pretty much all the visuals for them, and while there are some that get honorable mentions, like the Igni Hyde ones and Pomefiore as a whole, all of them are amazing. Also, special shout out to the Floyd and Jade birthday cards for always being like complementary to one another, minus in the 2nd year, but you know, they're so unbelievably cute. Jack and Deuce also have very adorable birthday cards, look at them! Anyway, you get the point. I love the birthday cards, they always go so hard on the groovies. Between the year sets, I definitely love year 2 cards more because they're more silly and fun, but the Broom Cats tap into the forbidden knowledge of the flower language and the symbolism, and I honestly can't get enough of it. S tier, all of them, chef's kiss. Editing Lily here, I'm recording this a few days after the release of Jamil's birthday card, the one that launched the new set with the Disney anniversary event. I think it's something about silver, platinum suit, whatever. And I gotta say, hate that. Not a big fan of that one, Chief. I obviously can't rule out the entire set because I know we'll get more cards with the upcoming birthdays with the next year. But this first one did not give me confidence for the pattern that these cards will follow, especially comparing to the previous years that were so much more dramatic and fun. This is especially embarrassing for me since I just praised the hell out of the birthday cards, but yeah.
Alright, get lost, all of you. You're fired. Go on, scram, get out of here, you moochers. That's right, keep moving.
You know what? Yeah.
Except you stay.
Anyway, back to pre-recorded Lily with the rest of the cards. Peace. Speaking of chefs, the second set I also universally love is the Master Chef cards. They're simpler than the birthday cards, but the quality and consistency between all of them is great. My biased favorites are Rook, Iria, and Meleas. Their groovies are so charming and so in character, it's amazing. All the Master Chef groovies get A tier. I anxiously wait for the remaining students for this set. Okay, now we can get to the individual cards. We'll begin with the set I like to call the base game set. This includes the labware, the ceremonial robes, and the dorm uniform cards, since all of the student members of the cast have one of each. Okay, let's get started. Ace's labware is fun. I find it charming, like he's eating shit. Ace is so fun to clown on. I love him, of course. It does put a smile on my face. B tier. Ace's ceremonial robes. I feel like this one had a lot of potential if they kept the influence that Apple's and Ace friendship started here. A lot of people forget this, but Ace and Apple interacted a long time before they met in the main story. This card was really cute, but it kind of sours me that it has no relevance to the main story. It will have to go to B tier, but it's still a lovely card. Ace's dorm uniform. I think it's just really cute. It is so cute. It has Riddle. It has Ace being like friends with Riddle. It has hedgehogs. I don't need much. This is just a boy and his house warden and their hedgehogs. A tier. This labware is such a cute vignette. I love him. He has this little pouty face and he's so upset and he's watering the flowers. I love Deuce's labware so much. He's so cute in it. The ceremonial robes, not much to say. He looks lovely in it, but other than that, not much to say. And this does put a smile on my face. Dorm uniform. I love bros being dudes, casually sleeping in Trey's room. It is so cute. It goes right alongside Ace's because they're always together. Cater's labware. I like the vignette because it teases how Cater likes cute things because of how he grew up. So I like that aspect of the vignette, but unfortunately, like I said in my previous video, it doesn't really reflect much in the groovy. Like the groovy is just him taking a picture. C tier. It's a fun card, but it's a little forgettable. Ceremonial robes. Now this one I like a lot. It's such an uncommon groovy to see for a character like Cater, who is so hyper and energetic, and he's also always 100%. So I like that this groovy gives a new vision for Cater, where he's like somber and quiet, just no one around and he's just on his phone. So it goes up to A tier. I wish the Halloween one followed this example. His dorm uniform, It has a little stray cameo, but other than that, I think it's alright. Cater has better options. Trey's labwear, I think I like the vignettes a lot more than the Groovy, his relationship with Riddle currently and what he thinks about it, but for the Groovy, I think it is a bit simple. Like, I don't mind it. I would have liked to see more of what he's really thinking behind his expression there, so I think they could have done a little better. Now Trey's ceremonial robes, I think it's how it shows his thighs. Something about this Groovy is so sexy. He looks so unnaturally sexy here. Like, he has looked sexy in other cards, but like, something about this one is so pretty to me. I'm moving on before I expose myself further. Okay, so his dorm uniform. Just like Cater's, I think that they are supposed to match because they're basically like mirrors of one pose and in the same light. So I guess they're supposed to be like the duo of the third years of Harslabule and they're in the same setting. But I think that Trey's is a little better than Cater's because it has a Deuce Easter egg, and you always like a Deuce Easter egg. It's just a little more charming than Cater's. I'm gonna give this a B tier. I'm gonna give Riddle's labwear a B. In most cards, Riddle looks very composed and very commanding. So his labwear, where he looks like kinda just like a normal kid, like a little bit troubled, a little bit annoyed, it's so cute. And with his ceremonial robes, we'll go in the A tier because I'm not gonna lie, he is slaying, him and the horse. Now we get to my first disappointment. Riddle's dorm uniform. I don't like how much they crammed into this one picture. Riddle is supposed to be the focus, but then there's Cater making a super silly expression, and then there's Cater, and then there's the bunch of books, and they're in the Harslabule lobby, which is already full of things. It's an overdose of details, and Riddle just doesn't feel like the focus. I see the vision with this card, but I just don't like it a lot. I think for how cool and badass his standard visual looks, his Groovy doesn't live up to the same hype, so I think they could have done better. Now we move on to Savannah Claw. I love Jax. Like, Jack looks so cute. You have a little Easter egg behind him with Octavinelle, but he looks super cute in a lot of his Groovies, which he just makes it work. I also will put his ceremonial robes in the same one just because they both show the same like more innocent sides of Jack. I like to see these sides of him where he's more bashful and more playful with the other students, so I really like these sides of him. Sadly, I don't think I like his dorm uniform as much as I like the other two, because it also suffers of the thing that Twist loves to do, which is to shove more characters in there when they're not the focus. Ruggy isn't the same as like a little Easter egg in the back. He's covering just as much ground as Jack is in the main focus of the shot. I don't think Ruggy was necessary there. I think they could have displayed his admiration for his upperclassmen a little different. So Ruggy, in both his labwear and his ceremonial robes, he looks so cute. He is working, he is getting that check. I will put his dorm uniform a little lower. I do like the Leona Easter egg. I feel like the character Easter eggs should be in the background. I'm not against the character Easter eggs in Groovies where they're not the main character featured, but there are others where the character is basically sharing the same amount of card space or even less than a character that is not supposed to be the focus. So I do like how they use Leona here. It's just a less cute picture than the other ones before. Leona's labwear, it is so funny. It's just so done with it, makes me smile. His ceremonial robes, unironically, super pretty. He's so grumpy, but he's staying put because he has to send a picture. It is so cute. And his little ears.
Oh my god. I can't. Get out.
His dorm uniform, S tier. It is badass, both standard and the Groovy version, but he looks so good in the Groovy version, and like I said in my video, it's one of the very few cards we see actual magic being used.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
Jade's labwear. Jade's labwear is so good. He looks so soft and it's such a rare sight. He's just looking at his mushrooms. He's so proud of them. I also really like his ceremonial robes. He looks so good. The framed shot where he's just like in the center. I assume it's Octavinelle and he's just looking back at the camera like, hee hee hee, I have your internet history. Amazing. Unfortunately, this is where I have to put Jade down. I'm sorry, my boy, but no, I don't like Jade's dorm uniform. I said this in my video and I'll say it again. Why did you make him look like a butler? He's not supposed to be a butler. I know this makes sense in the context of the vignette. Vil is just the first thing you see, like the whole palette, it's soft. It's dark and it's purple and there's a little bit of the green. And then there's the popping red of the shoe. So the first thing your eye notices is Vil's foot. This might look like a joke, but no, it just takes away from the focus of Jade. Like, you see, oh, Vil's foot, and there's just Jade. I see what they wanted to do here, but it doesn't work. Now moving on to Floyd's. Floyd will get wins across the board. I love how happy and silly he is in his lab wear. No thoughts, head empty, just happy. Now to his ceremonial robes. S tier because something about the movement and how the clothes are folding and it shows the movement that he's dancing and like basically almost flying and he's so happy dancing. Amazing. I love it. His dorm uniform, terrifying. Would not want to mess with that. Wish they kept the same energy for Jade's because while Jade is a shady little bitch, Floyd is more of the no, I will openly threaten a man to break his bones. Like, I'm not joking. So I wish they kept the same unhinged energy they gave Floyd and also gave to Jade. Like, they can be little shady bitches together, but Floyd is in one extreme and Jade is in the complete opposite. So I wish they matched. I wish they had the same complementary style their dorm uniform standards have, where they basically mirror poses. I really like that aspect where they're always complementing each other, so the energy of the cards really doesn't match. Azuls can be a little too washed out for me. There's a point where there's too much blue. The colors are too washed out for me, so I'm gonna give this a C, but not because I think it's meh. Like, I think it's a cute card, but it doesn't leave much of an impact on your mind. I do like a lot his ceremonial robes. I think he looks very charming in it. I think he uses the colors a lot better than in the lab wear where he doesn't look so washed out. Now his dorm uniform, I love it. It's a good composition because it echoes back to the pose that the three of them had in their standards, where Floyd and Jade were in the two sides of Azul and then he was in the middle. It echoes back to that, and it also shows that the three of them, they're a trio, you can't separate them. So I really like how the Groovy brings that out. Alright, next we have Jamil. The card is just, it is fun. I like his little expression of where he's concentrating. It is a lovely card. His ceremonial robes, also very cute. It is very rare to see Jamil embarrassed. Like, I think it's this one and then one in his birthday. And he just relaxes a bit, just leaves down a little bit of his guard. His dorm uniform, I think I had this card as wallpaper for so long because it's so pretty. His pose and the way the wind raises the petals, one of the prettiest cards in the game. Kalim's labwear. Starting off real bad for my boy. I can't say I care much for Kalim's labwear and ceremonial robes. Like, he's cute, like Kalim is never not cute, but I've seen these poses before. They're not anything new, so I'm not too much of a fan of these. However, his dorm uniform, also right up there. He looks so pretty. It is so cool to see Jamil's reflection in the bracelet, in the petals too, with the lighting and the water. God, he's so pretty. Apple's labwear. It's cute, kind of forgettable. Apple's ceremonial robes. I like how he doesn't seem much comfortable. I like how his expression conveys that. It immediately tells you what you need to know about the situation he's in and his personality. So I really like this card. Apple Apple's dorm uniform. I went back and forth in this card a lot because it shows off Apple's hidden badass nature. Like in this card, he shows a lot more of his badass side. I do like his standard a lot more. Something in the composition and the theme of him posing with this poison apple. I will put this on B tier. I do prefer his standards better. Now we've reached Rook. Rook's labwear, the things the fandom has said about Rook's labwear. None of those words are in the Bible. Like S tier, just for the sheer unhinged energy that his labwear has. Rook's ceremonial robes, super cute. This is not a duo we see interact often, Floyd and Rook. I think their dynamic is really charming, and I am sad that we don't get to see them interact a lot in more events and the main story, but I love the energy. Rook's dorm uniform. Okay, oh god, we've arrived here. Okay, so I don't like this card. I said before in my video, I think this card has so much missed potential. I am gonna put this card in the D tier. I see the potential in this card. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to do this whole flourish movement and Rook being this dramatic theater kid, but it's just so boring. Especially compared to more fun poses Rook has later, so I really think it's a missed potential card. Alright, Vill's labwear is so pretty. I don't have a lot to say about it, but it's not because I'm bored by it, it's because he looks so pretty in it that the words just escape my mouth. However, not a fan of his ceremonial robes. Like, so many of the characters get to have these really beautiful poses, like look super majestic in his ceremonial robes, and Vil, he's just fixing Jack's coat. Like, this is such an odd choice for Vil's card because you always expect Vil to be like the prettiest one, but this one just boring. It's not really anything special. It's just Vil looking angrily at Jack and fixing his coat. I'm not really digging it. That being said, Vil's dorm uniform, the things this card does with the lighting and how it positions Apple and Rook at his side and how he looks almost like a painting. Like, he has this really soft rendering but like with really sharp shadows sometimes and this light coming from above. It is such a pretty card. This is the Slay I expect from Vil always. I am holding him up to a standard and he has to meet this standard. Like, okay, I am part of the problem. I am part of why he overblotted, okay? But I love him and he looks beautiful here, okay? Orthos labwear, it's fine, it's cute. I really don't have a lot to say about it. It's a fine card. Orthos ceremonial robes, I think it has a different name. It's the equivalent of his ceremonial robes. I think it's cute. I think the vignette especially paints this in a more dramatic scene, like it's just him outside Idia's door calling out for him. So I think the lighting in the vignette really helps to sell the tone of this card. That being said, it is still very standard. I will give that it does pass the energy you hope it passes. Orthos dorm uniform, gotta say, I don't care much for it. Once again, we see Deuce, lovely Deuce, but the scene feels too cluttered. It's the same problem with riddles. There's so many things to look at. Orthos has the main focus of the shot, but even so, I am disappointed by it because it still has too much information to be read. So I am still gonna put this in the D tier because it could have been done better. Idia's labwear, it is so funny. Like, he's just so happy the Grimm's there, and the whole framing of the shot is from Grimm's point of view, where he's just looking up and there's just this flaming blue guy just wanting to pet him. Such a funny framing. I really like this groovy. If you've been on the internet and you know Dramatical Murder, you've seen this groovy be compared to that one image from Dramatical Murder. It is uncanny how similar the two poses are, and it is so funny. His body language and face tells a lot about what the groovy is supposed to be, so I think it's very on par with Ortho, especially since they're meant to represent the same period of time. It's a good groovy on the same level as the previous Ignihide one. His dorm uniform, I don't think it's as pretty as the standard, because the standard for the Ignihide ones is both standards are so pretty. You cannot top those standards. That being said, I am still gonna put this in A tier because it is so unhinged. Especially the lines he says during this vignette. And I think this groovy, it goes a long way to show how intense his emotions are and how excited he gets about the things he cares about. So very good groovy on selling that aspect of Idia. Alright, Sebek. Oh, his card is so cute. Look how happy he is. He's just showing off Melia's lab coat and his smile. It is so rare to see Sebek look so soft and so vulnerable and so just young. Because I'm not gonna lie, Sebek is easily one of the most hated and misinterpreted characters of the fandom. He's loud, he's brash, he gets in your face about being a human, but like, people forget he's so young. Like, he's just a kid. He has this view of the world that is still so young and so naive. He's just like Jack. He has this very stern and like the same want to be seen as strong and dependable and this tough exterior, when in reality they're just kids. They're just young teens. I am gonna put this in S tier. It always gives me a happy feeling. The same with his ceremonial robes. It's not so expressive as his lab wear. He's just such a polite boy. Like, he is going on A tier. He's just living his best life, serving tea. Lovely. For his dorm uniform, I'm not against it. It's great to see him look badass. I think I'm gonna put this in B. Not because it's bad or anything, it's what I would expect normally from Sebek. Like, it's not anything we haven't seen before. It's how he usually acts. He is loud and he is sparkly and he is powerful. Like, he is in Diasomnia, he is powerful. So it's not anything new. I definitely like it, but I like his more soft side showing off more.
Oh, look at the little baby. And now look at the big baby. Wow.
Now with Silver. Silver's lab wear is oddly kinda boring. Silver is one of the prettiest characters in the game, but the way his lab wear is just focused on his face. There isn't anything much. It's just his face, and like, I know his face is pretty, I can see that, but that's it. So it's just like a kind of boring card. But his ceremonial robes, lovely. Straight up Disney princess. He's just sleeping, he's just vibing, chilling with his animal friends. The way the lighting makes everything look so soft. He's straight out of a fantasy book. I really like this groovy. I also really like his dorm uniform. I'd say it's very pretty. I don't think it's the prettiest silver card up there, but I don't think it's his prettiest. But that being said, he looks so good here. The way he's framed against the sun and how he's looking down with this soft look, he looks so good here. Lilia's lab wear, I don't mind it, but I don't have a lot to say about it. It's fine, it shows that he's capable at fighting, but for a Lilia card, it is one of his most boring ones. Like, a lot of his birthday ones are him flying or him just being more openly silly. In this one, I'm just not feeling it. His ceremonial robes kinda slay. Very Avril Lavigne of him. He is a skater girl. Now we get to the first card in the A tier. What happened here? Was it crunch time? Was the mouse breathing down their necks to get this out as fast as possible? His standard is good. The standards of Diasomnia are all very pretty, but the groovy, man, does that groovy need some time in the oven. Like, we all know it's the face. There's something there that shouldn't be there. Ew! Melessa's lab wear is so cute. But if you know about book 7, if you know, you know. That's all I'm gonna say. Always love a little Deuce Easter egg. I am gonna put this in a B. So here's the thing about his ceremonial robes. I went back and forth in this card a lot because there's something about it. There's something about his face. The way that they framed his face. I think he's supposed to be angry, because in the vignette he's shown as angry because Leona is teasing him. Leona is making fun of him being his usual self. So he is supposed to be angry. You know Malleus's expression when he's angry. You've seen it in the modeling game. And I think that they tried to make him angry, but also kind of sexy. There's this odd mix in the expression on his face that I can't really put my finger on it, but something doesn't feel right. I love this card, I love the composition, I love the green glow. It really reminds me of the first scene that Maleficent appears in the Sleeping Beauty movie. That being said, I am not sure that I like how they try to make his face look. I would have rather have him look angry, like look legitimately angry, than this kind of like smirk, sexy looking smirk, while also being kind of pissed off. I would rather if they settled on one or the other. I am gonna put this in this tier, not because it's bad, like normally I would put this like in a B, but just because I can see what they tried to do, but I'm not sure if they accomplished it. I am gonna put this in this tier just because of the potential I see in this card, but it's not just real life. But know in your heart that this is a high B, low A. Now we get to the final dorm uniform, Malleus's dorm uniform. I also went back and forth on this card a lot because it is super pretty, don't get me wrong, it is very pretty. That being said, doesn't it kinda not look like Twist? I know it's weird, like it is on Twist, but like it weirdly doesn't match the art style. The dorm card groovies don't really follow any aesthetic or any theme, so it is odd to say that something stands out, like it doesn't fit with the rest, but like you can see the difference in just the rendering of the art of the groovy from Malleus's dorm uniform to everyone else's. It really doesn't feel like it fits the same game. It's gorgeous, obviously, but it has this whole setting that is completely different from any other dorm card groovy we've had before. It also doesn't really feel like a Malleus card. Comparing this card with his first birthday, that one feels a lot more like Malleus than his dorm uniform. I love this card, it's gorgeous, but I think they went too far with making Malleus too pretty. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but like with Malleus being the poster child of the game, I think they wanted to make him extra pretty and extra shoujo kinda, and I think they strayed too far in that direction where he kinda lost his whole air of mystery and power. That's how I feel about this card, and that's why I can't really rate it an S, even though it is gorgeous, because it really just doesn't feel like it is in the right game. But yeah, these are our first set of cards, the ones that we call the base game. Very distributed. Again, like I said, the art in Twist is lovely. Like all these cards, except these, are very pretty. Like these cards all have their merits. So now we will get into the event cards, and those, oh boy, I got a lot to say about those. Veal Beans. Yeah, I don't really care for it. It's fine. Veal is such a pretty character that I expect a lot from his cards, and this groovy is just kind of boring. Like, Jade's Bean is fine. Again, simple like Veal's, but I think the dynamic pose and the way he's handling the very silly shooter of beans, I think it's fun. It goes in B. It makes me smile. Floyd's Beans is an absolute banger of a card. Floyd looks so cute in it. It's such a rare expression that you get on Floyd, who is so chaotic. You don't know how his mood is gonna be, so to have a more calm and serene card with him gets an S tier for sure. Jax is also very fun. The movements and his expression, also using the very inventive mechanisms that they give school boys to like hunt each other down in the woods. But yeah, I think Jax is amazing. He looks weirdly good in purple. He's often in more warm colors like the yellow of Savannah Claw, but when he's washed more with purple, I really like this combination on Jax. So yeah, gets an A tier. If you've seen my previous video, you know how I feel about this card. I love this Rook card. The way it's framed as if someone is looking up, just noticing Rook there, just staring at them. I love this card. It's such a great Rook card. It gets an S. Azul's Beans. Azul's Beans is fine. I think Jax has a more fun composition. That being said, I also like the movement. I like the way that you follow the net's movement and then you land on his face. I think it's good. I think it's on par with Jax. While Jax has a more fun dynamic movement where he's like mid-movement, Azul's uses very well the movement of the net to make the composition of the card work. So I will give him that. So he gets an A tier. The Fairy Gala events have the prettiest cards in the game, like period. There's no contest about this. Kalim and Jamil's, I love these cards so much, especially Kalim's. The whole movement captured in these cards, the way that their frames mid-dance and their expressions of them enjoying themselves. These two S tier for sure. Next up, the SRs of the IF event, Silver and Ace. The IF version of the event focuses a lot more on the water flowers, the environment too. I think the IF cards play a lot more with how the setting is around them. You can see a lot more of the background with these cards contrasted to the previous cards of the original event. Since the first event had the focus of the Scarabia boys dancing to impress the queen, I think that it was the right choice to focus their groovies on the movement of the dancing. I think that was the right choice. While in the IF event, they're not dancing, they're not making something with too much movement. Ace is doing the magic tricks and the boys just have to be there and be pretty. I think it was the right choice for the groovies of this event to focus a little more on the background to help paint more of this magical feel of the venue of the Fairy Gala. So I think both cards use wonderfully well the background and the movement of the characters, even if the composition is simpler. Also S tier for both of them. And now we get to the SSRs. I love Leona's Groovy. You can hear the but in my sentence. But I think that his standard version is prettier than the Groovy. That being said, the Groovy is still amazing, obviously. So it is going on the A tier. He is slaying his catwalk, enchanting all the fairies. Is so funny. So yeah, top tier. Orthos. I don't even have to explain this card. Like, Orthos Fairy Gala, his standard version and his Groovy are some of the prettiest cards I've ever seen. The way that the standard version is framed with his ordinary colors and then the setting completely changes and the light darkens and you can see him framed with his pink lights with the pink flowers and how he's almost like a water fairy laying on the water. God, I love this card so much. I want to tattoo this card on my forehead. It is absolutely going on the S tier. Amazing card, one of the best of the game, period. Now, onto the Ghost Bride event. In this one, we have a Lilia SR that was not featured in the event, but got a vignette explaining why he got fancy and dressed up, unlike another card we'll see very soon. Lilia's is good. I think the vignette is very cute, and I think that the whole movement of him transforming kind of like a Cinderella is very cute, so it does put a smile on my face. It goes on B tier. Apples looks fun, but the whole composition washes out a little bit of his colors. It's a good card, so I'm gonna put in B as well. Now, for Riddle's card. Riddle's card goes so hard. The same thing I said about Rook's Beans. This feels like an SSR. Riddle's Groovy is way more fun and more dynamic to look at than the Groovies of the actual SSRs of this event. So yeah, goes easily on the top tier. Aces is fine. I think I like his standards better. I think it's a very cute Groovy, especially if paired with the context of the vignette, but I think that it's kind of simple. You just have to like Ace, and I like Ace, so I am gonna put this in B. It does put a smile on my face, and I think it's a cute card, but I like the standard better. Now we have Irias. Irias is also one that I like the standard a lot. I think his standard is one of the prettiest Iria cards. Like, Iria has looked very pretty in a lot of his standards, and I think that they kind of lean on the more goofy side when it comes to his Groovies. So this one is very cute. I think it was the first time that it was confirmed that his hair changed with his emotions, so it is a very pretty card to look at, especially with the whole pink detail on his hair. That being said, if you were to compare this one to the standard easily wins. I will put this in B tier because it's also a little crowded, and Ortho is the only one that is like not washed out in the background. The others are in the background, but it could never really compete with the standards. The Wish Upon a Star event, Iria, is very goofy. Like I will say, it is goofy, but I really like it. It is a very cute expression. He just looks so pathetic. He just looks so funny. Like, I will give him points just because he looks very silly doing it. The whole focus that it has on him, I really like it. I will put this on A tier. No one needs to ask Yana Toboso who's her favorite character to make and to draw cards for, because like, Ortho always gets the prettiest cards. There's no bad ones for him. So I think this card is very pretty. It's such a fun card. He looks an Astro Boy reference. I don't know why I think about that every time I see this card, but it looks so cute. He looks so cute. A tier for sure. Deuces. God, I love this card. The whole framing against the sunset and how it shows how he's training hard for this event, the dedication on his face and the way the sweat drops are drawn and glimmer against the lights of the sunset, sunrise, whatever it is. I don't know the vignette, but I love this card. It is so good, and it's such a rare opportunity to see an intense look from Deuce where he's concentrating so hard on something because he wants to do good. He wants to be a model student, so he wants to get this right, and it's such a great way to frame this. S tier. Now we get to the Camp Vargas cards. I gotta say, not a lot of these cards charm me. These cards aren't groundbreaking, like, they're fine, but I will start with my favorite one of the SRs, that is Vil. Vil is great in this SR. I think his frames very well, is very much Vil coded. Like, while it is simple, it very much feels like Vil. Like, go back to his Beans card. While his Beans card was very simple and had like two heads of two other characters, NPC characters might I add, in front of him, this one, he's just the main focus of the card. I also love his attire for this event, like the purple. Obviously, he's great in purple. I never miss an opportunity to see him in more clothes in purple. Like, it is a great card. A tier for sure. Jades, a lot of people have made memes about this with the whole let's take ibuprofen together memes. I laugh at Jade's card, but when you boil down to it, it's such a simple card that it's kind of boring. I think they could have done a lot better with this card, but for now it's just It is one of the most boring Jade cards, especially when it's contrasted with Floyd's one. Floyd's one is very fun. I think it builds very well with the vignette of Floyd trying to hunt down Grimm because he's trying to add mushrooms to the food they're making, so I think it's a very fun card. It doesn't have a lot on the composition, like it's a simple shot of looking up at Floyd from Grimm's perspective, but I think it's such a light-hearted, fun card that shows a lot more of Floyd's personality than Jade's card. B tier for sure. Sebex. I love Sebek, don't get me wrong. That being said, I don't really care for it. Obviously, he's lovely, a big kiss on his big-ass forehead, but unlike Vil's that frames his whole body, or with Floyd's that is a funny moment of the vignette, he's just reaching out for the flower and that's it. It's just his upper body framed. There's nothing doing with his own pose of the rest of his body, so I don't really have anything to say about it, so as per the rules, it goes on C tier. Ruggies. I have a history with this card. I wanna like this card, but the trauma that I have of the first time that it came and it drained me completely out of my gems and then it didn't come on the pity. I still have nightmares about it to this day, but let's look at this objectively. This card is fine. I don't have a lot to say about it. I think the standard looks cuter, looks more fun, looks more like ruggy, but I do like the composition and the shot of him fishing, but if it's to compare fishing cards, I prefer Veils much more than Ruggies. So yeah, I think that it's a great card, but I don't really care for it, so it goes on B tier. Trey's such a lovely card. I think this is the cutest Trey has looked in any of his cards. Like, it's a meme in the fandom. The Trey is often doing the DreamWorks expression on his face every time with the whole one eyebrow raised and then one eye lightly closing. But I think that this one is one of the prettiest Trey cards because he just looks so different and so cute, and he's just looking at the gem like, oh my god, look at this little guy. He just looks so cute in it. I really like this card for Trey. It's such a cute card. S tier for sure. Now we get to the Halloween event. And oh boy, I have some opinions on the Halloween cards. So currently, the Halloween event is the event with the most cards for all the characters. And we have a varying degree of quality across all the characters depicted. So we'll go through each dorms and their groovies and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so we're starting off with Ace. There's something about this card. Like, I know he's supposed to look like a corpse, but he looks so weirdly pale. I think it's the framing of the shot, like how it's night, and I think the light of the moon is making him more pale, or I think it's the makeup. Either way, I don't really like the rendering of this card because I think the colors are a little bit too contrasting. I thought it was going to be the makeup, but none of the other like skeleton boys from Harslabule look this pale, so it couldn't be the makeup. It's very weird how his skin is like weirdly corpse gray, but then his hair and his eyes are like so popping with color, like contrasted with red. I think the rendering of the colors of this card are a little wonky, like I'm not really that big of a fan, especially for Ace. I think the card could have been done better, so I am gonna put this in D for disappointment. Trey's no ass SR. Trey's no ass having card. I think Trey's, again, with the DreamWorks expression, I think Trey's looks better than Ace's. I think it was probably the same person that did them because you can kind of see that they kind of mirror each other. They're supposed to like mirror one another. I don't think Trey gets so washed out in this one. I do like Trey's more than I like Ace's, so it is going on B tier. Caters, oh boy, where do I put Caters? Caters have gone back and forth a lot because they had to balance the character looking handsome and the character looking scary. Like, they wanted the character to look handsome because people want to pull for them, but they wanted the character to look scary because it was Halloween. You need to look scary for the Halloween event. What are you doing here if you're not looking scary for the Halloween event? So they had to pick and choose between if they wanted to look scary or if they wanted to look handsome. And with some of these, they really couldn't decide, so they stayed in this middle ground where they tried to give the character a more scary expression but still looking handsome, and it really hits that whole uncanny valley of doesn't really match what the character would look like or what the character would look normal doing. You'll see what I mean. His standard is amazing, but the way that they framed his expression on the groovy, it just doesn't really work for me. I can see what they were trying to make, I can see what they were trying to do, but I think they leaned too much on the looking sexy, and the whole spooky aspect kind of came off as looking a lot more silly. I really wanted to put this Cater card low A or high B because it really is very pretty, but the whole thing with the expression could have been done better, so I will unfortunately have to put Cater in D alongside Ace. Sorry. But the House Warden of Harslabule slays. Like, he's slaying on both his standard and his groovy. This one, since they didn't try to make him look scary, they went for the more beautifully looking skeleton, I guess. He looks a lot better than what they try to do with Cater, so it works really well for this pose and this whole vibe of his Halloween groovy. So yeah, I think his is an S tier. It is just a very pretty card. Jax, I don't have a lot to say about Jax. I think compared to Ruggies and Leona's Halloweens, I think that his one is the most simple. I also think that his head looks a little too small. I know it's due to the perspective, but I'm not the biggest fan of this Jack card. It is pretty, like, don't get me wrong, most of these cards are very pretty, but I am not the biggest fan of this Jack card. It gets a C. Like, I don't mind it, but I don't have a lot to say about it. Ruggies. I really like Ruggies. I think the whole movement of the action of him looking upside down, like his mid-strike, like mid a flip over someone's head, like mid-attack, I think it's really amazing composition, especially with how the lighting of the moon plays on his clothing. I think the lighting in this card is very, very pretty. Ruggies is an S tier. Awesome card. Leona's. I also really like Leona's. I think the lights coming from his eye, like how his eye looks brighter because it's a darker setting, and I really like it. It's a simpler pose than Ruggies, but it still sells the action really well. I think it's also an amazing card. The movement of him reaching out for the camera. This is the perfect balance of the scary handsome they wanted. Leona almost never misses. Like, Leona's, when they keep his color consistent, Leona always lays A tier. Azul's Halloween, he's trying so hard to look scary, and it's so not working for him, like, my poor boy. This card could have worked. I like the colors, I like how the lighting hits on him, but his expression, I can't get over his expression. It is so weird and trying so hard to be scary and handsome, and it is so not working. D tier, Jade's. Jade. I had to spend so much time coping with Jade's, with how Jade's looks. Again, the DreamWorks face, they are all being influenced by Trey, I guess. I like the pose better. I think the pose is better than Azul's. That being said, the whole combination, it gives off such a weird theme because I don't know if it's supposed to be handsome, if it's supposed to be scary. I have no clue where to put this one. I am gonna be honest with you. It has aspects that work, like I like his eyes, I hate his mouth, I like the pose, I hate his hair. The likes and dislikes are fighting for dominance in my head. I can't reach an agreement on Jade's, so I am just gonna put this in A tier because it is just doing something to my brain, and I don't know if I'm disappointed, I don't know if I'm confused, I just know that there are things about Jade's card that I just can't deal, so it is going on E tier. I don't want to think about this card a lot. I am sad that I have to do this to my boy, but I must. E tier for Rook's card. I am a Rook apologist. I am a Rook fan. If Rook has no fans, then I assume I am dead. I don't like this card. Like, unlike Jade's where I was conflicted, I just don't like this card. It has such a weird expression. Again, trying to be scary while handsome, but like, Rook can be scary and handsome. Just look at his Beans card. Probably one of the best Rook cards. I don't know why I hate this card so much, but I do. I think it's something about the eyes, but also how you can barely see his body. It's just his shoulders and his arms and his face. There's nothing about the clothes or the pose being cool. The background is amazing. The background is very detailed. I love the details of the background, and I know that it's supposed to be like him coming out of the coffin, but I think it could have been framed better, and it hurts me because I love Rook and I love his standard. Like, his standard is super pretty, but this card is just not it. Also, not a fan of Vils. It's different from Rook's. I am not filled with hatred and despair looking at Vil's card, but it's another one of the instances where like his standard is way better, and I just don't think the pose and the lighting complements Vil's complexion a lot. That being said, it is not terrible. I will put this on C tier. As a Vil card, it could have been done better, but I will give it a C. The Diasomnia Halloween cards, these ones I think are some of the best ones as well. Like, I think Savannah Claw and Diasomnia carried the Halloween event easily, with the exception of Riddle. Riddle also slayed, but I think that for the dorms, I think Diasomnia and Savannah Claw easily the two best dorms. I am sad the Scarabia didn't have any SRs and SSRs, same with Ignihide, but I think the Scarabias would have been really cool, especially with them in the route of like werewolves. I think it could have been done something really cool with Scarabia having a groovy art, so I am sad that they didn't have one. But going back on track to Diasomnia, I think that their cards are really good at hitting that balance as well of being scary and intense, but also having the handsomeness. Like, Lilia's is just straight up on the scary side. They didn't try to make Lilia overly handsome while also being scary. No, they just went on ham on Lilia being scary, and it works for him. Like, it's not something that feels weird for him. This expression fits his face well, so I will give this an A. For Maleas, they played a little more safe. They played more on the handsome side. They didn't try to give him a goofy expression or a scary DreamWorks expression, but it is a great expression on his face, and it still looks very serious. A great balance of the handsome and scary scale. Maleas also gets an A tier, lovely card. Silver's card is actually, I think, one of the few cards you get of Silver looking this intense. More often than not, he's like either serious or very soft, so this is a very rare occurrence for Silver, and I think it works great. The framing of his performing magic, it's great, especially contrasted with the more serene and calm tones of the standard. I think it's a great juxtaposition of the groovy and the standard looking very different. So yeah, an awesome card, S tier for sure.
Hate your hair. Not likely. Yikes, yikes, yikes. And let me guess, you have a great personality. Is this really the best you could do?
Now to the Scalding Sands event, I don't have a lot to say about these cards, but it's because all of them are very good. All of them have the same amounts of efforts put into them, and they all fit together very well. I think the cards, at least of the original events, they all fit together very well with the colors and not one looking more different than the others, so I really like these cards, so I'll go through them really quick. Caters, it's just a really fun card. He looks great. I love seeing it. B tier. Maleo is also a great card. There's something about his calm expression reading, and then the way that the clothes are like ruffling in the wind. I really like it. A tier. Jamil's, I really like his standard visual a lot, but I think that this one, it's also a contrast of the two that I really like them both equally. Like, I feel like the groovy is very different from the standards, where I can like both equally, and they both look good on their own merit. So I will give Jamil also A tier, high quality. Now for Vil's. Vil, like I said in my last video, Vil's card is just filler. Like, there's nothing to Vil's card other than looking pretty. And other than that, I really don't care for it. Like, unfortunately, there isn't even a vignette or anything in the event that I can like about this card. Like, it's just pretty. If it's just to look pretty, all these cards look pretty. Like I've said before, Twist is a very pretty game. Like, the visuals of the game rarely miss. So yeah, it is a pretty card. Do I like the standard more than the groovy? Kinda, yeah. I do prefer the standard visual more than the groovy visual. But other than that, not a lot to say. Like, in terms of groovy, in terms of story relevance, in terms of needing to exist, So yeah, C tier, I guess. Moving on. Unlike some New Year's from other games, these ones are very simple, like they're not anything too flashy, they're very calm, and then I do like that about them, but it also feels like very simple for a special New Year's event. Like I think something as flashy and colorful as Twist could do something more fun for New Year's, I guess. So I really don't care much about these cards, so we'll go rapid fire. Vil looks great. Straight up one of the best clothings of the set. A tier. Kater looks fine. He looks very handsome, very cute. Not a lot to say about it. B tier. Deuce. He looks cute. He looks very handsome, my boy. A tier. Ruggies. I do like this one a lot. I think the expression on Ruggie is very cute. I think it is a very Ruggie expression, and I really like the details of it being cold, so his nose is kind of red. I really do like this Ruggie card for the visuals alone, so A tier. Kalim's is fine. I think as far as Kalim's cards go, this one is kind of in the same grounds of his lab and his ceremonial robes. Is very simple, very modest. Nothing wrong with that, obviously, but like I don't really think much about it. C tier. Sebex is also cute. Yeah, I think it's a cute card. More than anything else, I'm happy that he finally got to be an SSR in an event. I remember back then when it was released in Japanese, he was the last of the Insomnia and the first years to ever have an event card. That being said, I'm still waiting for an actual event proper, like not just New Year's, but like a special event. But as far as event cards SSR go, it's fine. Again, it's very simple. I am going to put this in B. I don't think it's as cute or as beautiful as Vil and Ruggie, but I think it's a great Sebek card because he's just smiling and he's just having a great time, so I love that for him. B tier. Now we're on to an event that I really like. Almost all of the cards, like all of the Groovies, are basically really good, and that's the Wonderland event. With some clear exceptions, the rest of the Groovies are like really good. They give me what I wanted from the Groovie. It doesn't have a vignette, so it has to tell the story of what the character is doing with the sum just on the visuals alone, and I feel like it really comes across very easily and very understandably what the relationship with the sum and the original person was during the event, and it's really cute. So yeah, Caters, super cute. Two influencer boys having fun. That sums like elevate the cuteness to max levels. A tier, lovely card. Floyd also A tier, very cute card. I love seeing how much fun Floyd is having with that sum, as that sum is trying to draw. It's one of the cutest cards. A tier. Orthos is also very cute. I think for an ortho card is very simple, but it goes along with the themes of the sums, and like the little sum sleeping on his lap is just super cute. I love the more soft green tones. It's rare to see ortho in these green warm like nature tones, so it's a very cute card to see. A tier as well. That some cards, when they aren't whitewashed, they're really good. Rooks, I am obsessed with this card. Like this card, S tier immediately, just because of how much I love this card. It is great. First of all, the lighting, the way that the card is rendered, it's so good for an SR. Rook has weirdly the best SRs of the game that should be SSRs. The whole story of him holding up a Vil picture and the little Tsum being like super entranced by it, and they just sharing the pictures of Vil and probably the other people that he finds beautiful. Like, it's such a good card. It tells such a story in no words needed. This is what a good Groovie should be. S tier, I love it. Riddle's great setting of Riddle with all his dorm friends looking up with the little Tsum. It's framed really well. S tier. The way that the Tsum cards Groovies for the SSRs frame the whole dorm, it's such a good idea. For the first two cards, they were the best. The ones that came after, the standard version was way better, but these ones, the ones for the first event, amazing. So Leona's also naturally S tier. Leona holding that some like a little ball, like basketball or something. It's so funny. Now we get to probably the worst SSR of the Tsum event, not counting the whitewashing one, and that would be Azul's Groovy. Like, there's so many things that are off about this card. First off, Azul's face. Something about him, it doesn't really match. I think the twins look great. I think that they look really good. It's also really weird how that Tsum is just plastered on there. Like it's a PNG that they forgot to add as they were finishing the card. They were like, oh no, we forgot the Tsum of the card. Quick, just add it on top. Because the previous ones, like Riddles, it's still floating, but it's more organically placed within the group. And with Leona's, like I said, he's just holding his like a little ball. But Azul's, it's just plastered on top of the characters in such an odd way that it really doesn't match. So I am not a fan. I am gonna be nice and I am gonna put this in D because the twins look really good. With all the great groovies we got for the Tsums, the recent SSRs of Azul and Kalim, they are not it. So Sabax, Harveston, Appleton. Sabac's winter clothing. I really like the Sabac. He's just really cute, and if my classification so far hasn't made this obvious, I love when Sabac is cute and just a little guy, so he is going on A tier. Idias, I also really like this Idia, not only because it's a really good outfit for him, the way that they play with his hair. Side note, I really love the ways that the art and the artists and the outfits play with Idia's hair when it comes to events, which is one of the main reasons why I really want more events with him wearing different clothing. Idia's hair is so creative, just his basic hair. It's fire, it's also somehow long and lustrous, and it has layers, and it can also change color, but it can also be braided and put into hairstyles. I love Idia's hair so much, and this card with the long braid, god, such a good use of his long ass hair. It somehow just works for him. The card is also like, it has this really cozy feel, just like Sabac's. It elevates it up to an S tier. Apples, I also really like this Groovy. I think that the standard card is cuter. I think Apple has a lot of the standard card being very cute or delicate, and I think that this contrast that the Groovies have with being more intense is a good consistency with how his character works. So I really like that this Groovy also follows this pattern of Apple being very cute on the standards and also being kinda badass, kinda cool on the Groovy. So yeah, I really like this Groovy. I will put it on A tier. He deserves it, you know, he's just doing his best. Okay, now to Portfest. Starting with Ruggy, I think it's a fun card. It is dynamic, and I like that you can feel the movements through the card. I really like the clothes for this event. I think they're really cute sailor clothing. You wouldn't think that they would be able to pull off a reason for the characters to wear something like that, which is very amusing because they always end up pulling it off, and it actually makes sense. As fun and dynamic as the cards are, I don't have a lot to say about them, so I'm just gonna put Ruggy in B tier. I think Rule can go in A tier because I like the framing of the movements around him a little better than Ruggy's, but they're both kinda on the same level-ish. Jax. Jax is so funny to me because he looks so goofy. Like, don't take this the wrong way. He is goofy in a positive way, but it's such a goofy art because he looks so cool in the standard, and in the goofy, but in the Groovy, he just has those bazonkers of his arms out, which, by the way, could knock someone out. And he's just having a grand old time. He's just a little guy. He's just a silly little man. He's just banging his little instrument left and right. And you know what? For that, Jack gets an S tier. Now for the Tamashina Mina SARS. After the whole mess that was Leona's card in that event, I barely remember that the SRs exist. So Lilia already has so much presence in Leona's Groovy that you kind of find it funny that he has a card all to himself. Kalim's is way better than Lilia's. I can see what Lilia's card is trying to do with the movement, but I think Kalim's executes it a lot better. I think I'm going to put Kalim on A tier because I do think he looks good, and I think the movement in his card is conveyed better than Lilia's. And I think Lilia is unfortunately going on C tier. Lilia has a bunch of more cool cards up ahead, and this one is just The second big Halloween event that wasn't Halloween, the Glorious Masquerade. So I think I'm gonna get flamed by having this opinion, but I think that the SRs of the Glorious Masquerade are kinda lackluster. With one exception, I think Deuces is the better SR. And there's a reason for that. 3 out of the 4 SRs are kinda in the same frame and setting. They're all dancing, and I get that they're all dancing in the same place, but when you compare Sabek, Jamil, and Apple to Deuces, you can immediately tell that Deuce stands out from them because all of the other 3 are just framed against mainly the floor. It's an upper shot focusing more on the floor. Jamil gets a bit more of the setting around him. I will give Jamil more points for that, but I think that it would have been cool to have each of them be framed near a different element of the architecture around the hall that they were in. So I think with Deuce being framed by the windows, and then Jamil being framed by the arches, and then Sabek being more to the ground, but Apple being, I don't know, against a staircase or something, they could have been using a lot more of the background, making it so that 3 out of the 4 SRs share the same flooring, diminishes a bit of the spectacle of the cards and the outfits and the events. So I will put Sabek and Apple on B tier, Jamil as the one that gets most of the background in his shots being more shown gets a little more points in the A tier, but by far the best one being Deuce, framed by the windows showing the night sky and his pose being more focused on the camera. Everything on Deuce's immediately gets him on S tier. I love this card for Deuce. And now we get to the main boys of the event, Maleas, Azul, and Iria. This is gonna be a tough one. Okay, so I really love the SSRs for the Glorious Masquerade, and I think that the standard versions are some of the most gorgeous cards Twist has. That being said, just like with the SRs, you don't really use a lot of the environment for the Groovies. It's just the harsh lighting and the really close-ups on the characters' faces. However, in the standard version, they do show a lot more of the setting where the characters are in, especially in Azul's and Maleus's. The way that they frame where they are and how that complements for the card setting is just such a good way to show off the entirety of the event. If you asked me to pick if I preferred the standard versions of these cards or the groovy versions, I would have to go with the standard versions. That being said, the Groovies are naturally very great. A lot of people had eyes on this event, which is why the Groovies have this very high bar of quality, which is why even the lower end of the Groovies of the SRs are still really good. So given how the setting of the Groovies can be repetitive, I'm not going to take points away from them having really close-up shots of the characters. As a whole, they used what would show off best with the character in that scenario of the Groovy. And all of that TLDR was to say that I will put them all on S tier. Now for the bunny event. The bunny event came out of such left field, but I loved it so much. The clothes are so cute. Look at Arthur, how his little legs, his little weird ass bunny legs work. Okay, so right off the gate, Apple gets the win in this event. It's not even a competition. Apple is so stinking cute in this groovy. I could not express it how Apple ends up looking in this groovy. He's just such a silly little man. He's just having a grand old time being lost in Wonderland as a little rabbit. Arthos gets a little weird with his legs. Like, I do love his legs on his model. I think it's really cute how he basically makes new bodies for himself whenever he has the chance. So I really like that he incorporated the more animal aspects of making it look really like a bunny's legs. That being said, in the groovy, the whole size of the legs makes it a little difficult to wrap your head around it when you first look at it. So while Apple goes on S tier, I will have to put Arthur on A tier. Now we get to Deuce's SSR, and I gotta say, I am really unsure of where to place this, because at first it really looks really cute, and then you start to notice that it oddly doesn't look like Deuce. But I think that the combination of the glasses makes it almost not look like Deuce. If you look at the standard is really good, and this one I just don't think that it gets to the same level as the standard, but he still looks good. I can see what they were trying to do, and it works when I make peace with it. I am going to be nice because it's Deuce and it's his hometown event and he's doing his best as a little bunny, so I am going to put him on B tier. Okay, now for the Club Groovies. The Club Groovies are unfortunately on a really weird zone where they don't really follow a consistency. And I don't know why, but it does make them look a little disjointed compared to everything else. They look really simple, and part of me likes it, but part of me is also really salty that the Groovies came at the loss of a potential vignette. I explained this a lot more on my previous video, but for a quick rundown, the club cards just don't have any personal stories, and you'd think that with less time being focused anymore on making the vignette, since it doesn't have it, you'd think that the groovy would be something even more special, especially since the standard visuals for these club cards aren't really anything dynamic. I get why they're simple, it's an everyday activity for the characters, but I really don't have much to say about them. So going through them as they were released and also the clubs, let's go with Cater. Cater, I think it's a good one. I think it belongs on A tier. He just looks really good on it. Same with Kalim. I think Kalim looks really cute. Kalim is just jamming out, just banging out those tunes, so I think Kalim deserves an A tier. I am tempted to give Lilia an S tier, just because he's just serving so much with his outfit. Yeah, okay, f it. I'm gonna give Lilia an S tier, especially because I think that his outfit is the best one out of the three boys. Now with the basketball gang, my favorite of this bunch is Floyd, because obviously he's just so fun, while the other two are very more serious. And you'd expect that from Jamil, because he's a serious lad when he needs to be, but I wouldn't expect that from Ace. I would think that he would show off a little more of his playfulness in the game. Just like with the band members, these are fine cards, so let's get my favorites out of the way. Floyd will be on S tier, Jamil on A tier, and Ace is going on B tier. I don't like him. No, I'm just kidding. It's simpler than Floyd's and Jamil's because the movement is a little simpler. He is mid-movement passing the ball, but it's a matter of comparison. Floyd's is the funniest and Jamil's has a great mid-movement capture, so Aces gets the short straw, but he's still great, so it does put a smile on my face. Now we get to the Science Club, and right off the gate I'm gonna say that Rooks is really freaking good. seeing Rook in a more serious side is very rare. I don't think we've had any Groovy where he's really serious. So while we have seen these moments for him in the main story, this is the first time that it's shown in the Groovy art style. So Groovy S tier. Now for Trey, I gotta say, I was a little disappointed when Trey's Groovy came out because I thought that his would focus more on the herbology part of the lab classes. Not only does his chibi animation focus on that,
私に新しい世界を見せてくれそうだ。ああ、薬草を育てていたはずなんだが。
but also Rook makes sense for focusing on the potions, for being Pomefiore with the whole poisons thing, you know. Trey would have made a lot more sense to be framed with a mandrake or making some kind of weird lab mutated plant. I think that it would have shown the two different aspects that you can expect from a magical lab. You know, there's potions, but there's also herbology, which also makes sense considering that the professor that is their leader also handles both topics. He's the main teacher for potions, but he also deals in herbology assignments. So I think that framing Trey in the herbology section of the lab would have been a really good take, and I was disappointed that it wasn't done like that. So I will have to put Trey on D tier, not because the card is bad, it's a missed potential to not have him show off his knowledge of plants and fruits, especially given that in his lab where he is framed in the botanic garden, they had this really cool concept, and I'm sad that they didn't capitalize on it. And now for Jack. Like, Jack has a lot of more cool cards than this. This one, especially after I've seen that he is a little paler than usual, than you would like for him to be. And while I love him and he is great at running, I don't really care for it. It's a meh card for me, so it will unfortunately go on C tier. Now we've gotten to our last two cards, and unfortunately these two last cards contain massive spoilers for book 7. So if you want to go into book 7 and not know anything, skip to this timestamp appearing on the screen so I can show off my final thoughts and my final tier list. I would not be putting these cards on the tier just so I don't have to censor them out on the final image, but I will be discussing them and their visuals extensively on the following segments. So if you don't want to be spoiled, this is your last chance to click away before I discuss these cards. If you're curious but you don't want spoilers, they're just S tiers, okay? Okay then. Arthel's book 7 card, super pretty, very much blue, but then again blue looks great on him. I prefer the standard over the groovy in this one, mainly due to the color composition and the perspective, and the former being more to my tastes. But I find super charming that if you zoom in on the latter, you can see his parents and the Styx staff waving him off. It's a very cute detail, definitely helps cement this card's place in S tier. Lilia's book 7 cards, now this one, Arthel's Fairy Gala definitely got some competition because, man, I was not expecting how pretty this card would be. I love both visuals for this card equally. They both work so well in the scenes they want to depict. The standard has the use of colder colors, which helps set the tone in the dark and creepy forest swamp they're in. And the lower angle looking up at Lilia helps to build the intimidating energy of his expression, even if his pose isn't too action-packed. Contrasting that with the groovy, where the colors are much more vibrant due to the fire in the battlefield, and it helps to make the green of his weapon pop on the screen even more. Not to mention how his pose is just so dynamic, and he has a great action line to follow with your eyes, landing on his enraged facial expression. Another point, making his eyes also pop more with color compared to the colder, unemotive ones in the standard. So yeah, this is easily one of my favorite cards so far. Amazing art on both fronts. Makes me even more mad that it doesn't have a vignette, but hey, let's not get into that right now because I'll get angry. It goes right up in S tier where it belongs. So this is the final Groovy tier list. At least of the time I'm recording, these are all the ones released. Honestly, there are some that I already disagree with myself about their placement, but we'd be here all day if I let myself go. So I'm pretty sure that I contradicted myself multiple times during the rankings, but that's why this is all in good and fun. And I'll put the link to the tier in the description if you want to make one of your own too. As for what we can glean from this video other than the fact that I talk too much, well, it's the fact that Twisted Wonderland cards have an insane amount of variety for all the tastes and preferences. The cards that don't resonate with me a lot can be someone's favorites, all because they show a lot of passion behind them and have an insane amount of charm. No matter how much I've bullied some of these cards during this video, it's clear that the quality of the card is pretty consistent most of the time. There are some outliers, but that's probably a result of the system that dictates the creative and artistic direction of the game, as well as the working conditions to pump out more cards every month. So I will give Twist the benefit of the doubt. A little. Just a smidge. Don't get cocky, don't get greedy, that they'll pump out more bangers in the future, because so far I've been pleasantly surprised with how good the main story cards have been. Just, you know, bring back the vignettes. I'm recording this outro after they show the visuals for the new Halloween event, and I'm going to sob if they gatekeep all the cool vignettes just for the SSRs of the event. And speaking of said new events, can we know what sort of blackmail Ace has on Yana Toboso? It's been 3 years since this game launched, and the little gremlin doesn't have a single event R card. The only ones he has is the normal school uniform and his physical education card. Meanwhile, poor Jack over here has been getting snubbed over and over again in events with Ace by getting all the R card slots. The disrespect! Same with Stray actually, these two have so little event SRs. Meanwhile, the Ginger here is hogging everything. Hashtag justice for Jack and Trey.
We need to sacrifice the Ginger.
I really didn't know these odds before. I only discovered when I saw an artist I follow bring it up after the announcement for the Playful Land event, and I was flabbergasted. Jail for the Ace boy. Send him to R card jail for once in his life. He needs to atone for his sins.
You took everything from me!
Thank you everybody for watching. If you made it here to the end, I'm glad you did. This video was so long at first I had to cut out a lot, otherwise it would be just me gushing about the cards for even more hours. Still, if you agree or disagree with some of my placements, make sure to tell me in the comments. I'll be sure to read each one, and maybe one of you will finally convince me to love Rook's Halloween card properly. This will probably be my last Twist video before part 2 of the deep dive, which means content will be slow a little bit. There are some other videos that I have planned that aren't related to Twist, but I'm still having a lot of fun making them, so I hope you look forward to it. If you want to be notified when more videos drop, consider subscribing to this channel and hitting the little bell, and also follow my socials, where I occasionally post arts and doodles and answer questions about headcanons and, you know, just normal stuff. Very exciting, I'm sure. That should be everything, so I hope you all have a great day or night, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.